Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Lookism, a great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, this is one of the few instances of me saying like, hey, I actually have read the comic book, or in this case, the webtoon. I can't remember where I was. I was pretty deep into the series, but it's been a while since I read it. I'd have to look at my webtoon app and see like where the last place I left off reading it, but it's been a hot minute. But I mean, first and foremost, I was excited when I found out this got adapted and everything, and even turning on the first episode, I'm like, oh man, this is so, and then I was getting so excited, and I was like, all right, you idiot, the beginning of this series is uber depressing. It's like, yeah, because also, it might be a translation thing about, like, his name being... Because wasn't his name, like... Maybe it's supposed to be, like, a somewhat equivalency, but it's, like... I think in the webtoon, or at least, like, a translated version of it, he's, like... His name is, oh, God. Daniel, right? I believe. But it's, Hyung Seok. And, it's, like, stuff is rough for him. Like... Obviously, you can make the point of like, well, I mean, even I can't even be like, oh, the bullying is exaggerated. It's like, maybe, but even then, it's like, you hear horror stories about bullying and stuff like that. Like, I get it. Like, it's also hits a little close to home because I'm a fat dude and I was a fat kid. And yes, people would constantly throw my weight in my face. It's just kind of like, it's just this fact of life and stuff like that, And I get that too, like the whole, like, obviously he has to deal with it all day and he's keeping it to himself. His mom was like, hey, can I transfer to a new school? But his mom's like, right, I made sure you could go to this school and this is the cheapest place we can find in like kind of a good neighborhood. But I don't want to leave your friends behind because she doesn't know what he's going through at school. Like, it doesn't matter. Guys, girls, like everyone looks down upon him and thinks it's funny to pick on him. And obviously it's a theme, and not even just like, webtoons or manhwa or like manga. It's, but it's also like, yeah, even if it's like in a very hyperbolized sense in some regards, that's why I'm always also hesitant to say anything. Cause I'm like, yeah, people, I mean, the range of like how rough someone can get at bullying wise can run the gambit on me. Like where it's like, right. I wouldn't say I was bullied much. I was just like, hey, you're fat. That's just probably as far as that went. But I've never gotten to the physical side of bullying, and I'm not trying to compare and contrast like physical to psychological and mental damage. Like when it comes to bullying, I'm not trying to compare and contrast. I'm just saying that's the only version I've ever experienced. I've never experienced the physical side of things, but people have. So, but it's rough when it's just like you're kind of getting it from all corners, and he's attacking his mom, blaming her. It's like, right, it's not my fault that we're poor. And it's like, right, his mom is doing everything she can. She even went to school to try and found it because she didn't know what was going on. She only went there because she was like, right, I want to let your teachers know and your principal know that you were transferring, because she's trying to do what she can. And he ended up yelling at his mom. She was there sticking up for him, the one person in your corner when literally no one else is in your corner. She was on your side because she's your mom. She loves you and wants to protect you. And you yell at her because she's embarrassing you, because he also knows that her helping him out is going to make things worse. Like, things are already bad enough. You're going to make it even worse. How can that possibly? Oh, they'll find a way to make my life more unbearable. So his mom's like, right, I transferred you, like, you get to live on your own and everything, and she's going to keep working. I mean, it's like, and at the time, he doesn't really think, I mean, obviously he feels bad because he's like, she's doing this for me, but he's like, yeah, I'm going to live on my own and stuff. It's like, yeah, but your mom's also going to be paying double rent. She's going to be paying for you. She's also going to be paying for her own home, which that is something I slightly remember. I don't remember them leaning into that too much, but maybe that kind of dies down like later, like kind of at later parts in the beginning. But because I know, spoilers, I know Daniel does eventually, no, not Daniel, Hyung Seok eventually gets a job as, in his original body. The way they have it like framed is like, oh, small and big. That's how they differentiate between the Hyung Seoks. But I think I remember him like the small version of him, the OG version, getting a job and that's like how you pay for stuff. I can't remember if that's because something happened to his mom. I don't think his mom dies. I think she's just like I don't know. And now once again, it's been a while, so I don't know if that's something they changed or not. Also, do correct me if I don't. You know the anime thing, and they even had a shot of it where like he's in the hallway. You know the lighting hits their glasses, and it's just that you can't even see their eyes anymore. I could swear that he was like that in the webtoon, but you probably did see his eyes, and I'm just not remembering. I think a lot of shots of him will be of him with the glasses on and everything, and like it will have that shimmer to it. But I think more often than not, like you probably could see his eyes, but I just don't remember seeing it. So the first shot when you saw his eyes, I was like, oh, that's so weird because I feel like I don't remember that. But once again, that's me and my terrible knowledge, referencing something I'm familiar with, but just haven't read in such a long time. So do forgive me on my hazy knowledge in that regard. But he thought, going to a new place would be able to start over. And it's like, he wanted to reinvent himself. And 5 seconds into it, immediately gets it in with the guy who's like, oh, what are you laughing at? He's like, no, that's not what. He's like, are you clenching your fists? It's like, yeah, it's a defense mechanism, because he was like, you know what? I'm tired of being bullied. I'm going to be changed. It's like, oh, you balling your fists? You want to fight me? And the guy beats him up. Everyone's taking pictures, posting it online, and saying the most horrendous things they can tell him. And for him, it's like, right, I thought I escaped all this. I thought I finally got away from it, and it followed him here. Even his new second chance at life, it's like, right, his mom sacrificed so much to send him here, to give him this opportunity. And it's like, right back at it. And it's even worse. At least everything with school was allocated to just school. It didn't bleed over to his outside life as much. Now his outside life is covered in it. So it's like, right, he felt trapped. And to where I am in the story, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't like read far into it, but from where I was in the story, they never have gotten to an answer of how this happened. I do know that. Oh, go ahead. No, because I'm about to say that's a major spoiler. And just where I was in the story, they hadn't really talked about how it happened. God, I want to talk about something, but I'm like, because I think it's because of the opening. I think there's certain elements I'm like, this anime, these 8 episodes might actually cover it, so I'll talk about it then if it comes up. Either way. But it's like, right, the whole notion of like, hey, I'm able to switch bodies. Here's this big body that's like, oh, like it's handsome, got abs and muscles for days. And obviously the whole shtick is, right, when one body falls asleep, the other one wakes up. So he can change at will whenever he wants to. Kind of living that, well, obviously, he starts living a double life. I'm sure in the next episode we'll really start leaning into that, or maybe episode 2 or 3 will lean into that. But, it's like, right, he gets to have a fresh start. And he even brought up something I thought was so fascinating. He was like, oh, my voice. I was like, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. It never once crossed my mind, because I don't think they ever reference his voice being different in the webtoon, but I could be mistaken. But it's like, right, it's a visual medium purely, there's no audio. So like, of course, like, why would that make a difference? Like, obviously as an animation, it's anime now. So it's like, they had to make a point of that. And I was curious too. I was like, it does sound like it's a different voice. Like, is it the same voice actor? Looking at the cast, it's not. They do have 2 different voice actors voicing the character. I was like, that's fascinating. So, cause there's easily a thing of doing kind of like a, there's examples of you could do it, like a Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I'll leave it at that. Certain character has dual personalities, and both are, at least, I don't know if they do it differently in Japanese, but I know in English it's the same person. I think that's typically the thing to do, but giving them very distinct voices and stuff like that really, really plays into it. So, like, you could have easily gotten, like, the voice actor to do, like, but I think you want the voices to be very distinct, so you want it to be 2 different people, not just someone where you could hear elements of, like, because they don't want it, I guess they don't want it to make it sound like, oh, Big Daniel is just Small Daniel with just, like, changing his voice a little bit. It's like, no, we want to make it distinct that the bodies naturally have 2 different voices, like they are distinctly 2 different people, which they kind of are. Obviously, it's like, it's the same consciousness bouncing between both bodies, so his memories are always going to be intact or whatever, so. But yeah, this is his opportunity to start fresh, to start over, and he goes to school, and just everyone, it's Splooge City, because everyone's like, oh my god, he's so pretty, he's so awesome. the girl and her boyfriend he ran into earlier in the episode that beat him up in front of everybody. She's swooning a little bit. Home dude's you can see him in like the corner, just kind of pissed off, like, ugh. And just every girl is starstruck by him, and it's like, yeah, this is his opportunity to kind of make a change for himself, and he's starting over in the truest form. So, well, I also thought was kind of a neat thing, and I don't remember this either, but it could have been in the manhwa, the webtoon, but the fact is, when he's outside of school, there's this shot where you see, like, some very distinct characters. I'm like, oh, yeah, kind of letting you get familiar with the squad. Some characters he's going to get familiar with in his early days, and some of which stick around, so I think that's really dope. It's like, right, if you've read the webtoon, you're like, hey, it's you. God forbid I won't remember any names, plus, because it's been that long. I swear, I think he was the only one that had, like, once again, I think it might have been just a translation thing, that it had, like, his name was like Daniel. I don't think anyone else had the name just like that. I think he was the only one, but I could be mistaken. Anyway, I'm very, very excited to continue. Like, it's going to be fun, but there's always going to be an angle of sad and depressing element to it, because, like, at the heart of it, it is this situation, it is this, like, yeah, this kid who's bullied and wanting to change, and now has this, kind of like supernatural element that kind of allows him to kind of live his best life to some extent. Like I said, kind of a spoiler, but like I brought up before, it's, he kind of doubles up his life and stuff like that, and some interesting developments, awaits him in the future. So I'm excited to continue. Like I brought up, it is 8 episodes, so I'm very, very curious to see where this season ends into comparison to the story and stuff like that. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.